All right, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us for this session of the South Carolina Arts Network on fostering Latino arts and culture in South Carolina. I will be your host, LaRushla Murphy. I'm the Arts Industry Director here, and I will give a brief introduction in regards to our speaker. Some of you may know him, but it's a pleasure to have him speak with us today. Our workshop will give an overview of Palmetto Luna's remarkable success in promoting Latino arts and culture in South Carolina with no paid staff and minimal funding. Included is advice on outreach efforts to the Latino community, best practices, recommendations and program involvement, demographics, and the evolution of Latino communities in South Carolina, current trends, and cultural competence information. Our speaker, Yvonne Segura, is currently the director of the Multicultural Affairs of the South Carolina Commission of Minority Affairs. He has over 20 years of experience in community activism, arts advocacy, and grassroots leadership development for Latinos in South Carolina. He is also a volunteer for advocacy, including as the executive director of Palmetto Luna, an organization dedicated to making a positive impact of society by fostering Latino arts and culture in South Carolina. Thank you so much for joining us. And as we move through the presentation, after each section, we will pause for any questions that you may have. You can put those in the chat, or we may give you a time to ask your questions directly. And at the end of the presentation, if there is a question that you want to ask that's more personal to your organization, we will pause the video so that you have that opportunity in this space. So thank you so much for your time. And Yvonne, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, well, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for being here for this presentation. As usual, the South Carolina Arts Commission has been a big supporter of Palmetto Luna Arts. We credit a lot of the success that we had throughout the years, that we always had the support from this organization. And of course, very, very excited about being here today, talking to everybody about Palmetto Luna and how we've been successful. And hopefully this will help people also learn a little bit how to reach out to the Latino community, how to be successful in reaching out. And like it was mentioned before, if you have any questions, we have 4 sections during this presentation. I'm trying, as part of the agenda for the presentation, we're gonna talk about like get to know your community. Then we'll talk about the Palmetto Luna Arts model, what we call the model that we follow. Also, how to have intentional arts programming. And finally, the reach out and connect. This whole presentation, we're going to have a lot of information in here. We are going to encourage you to pay attention. We'll be sharing this presentation with everybody, so don't feel like you have to take notes. Don't feel like you have to scribble something there. Just pay attention. It's going to be fast and furious because that's how, as Latinos, we're always trying to do a lot. We're trying to reach a lot, and we know that we have limited time and limited opportunities. That's why we want to do it in this way. Also, down there in the screen, you can see, and you guys can see my screen now, right? You can see that I have a little 5 and a star. When I was going to the presentation, I noticed that there are 5 slides. There's going to be a lot of slides. It's like about 40, 45. But there are going to be 5 that are going to have the little sun in the corner. And those are the ones that if you walk away from today and those are the only things that you remember, that will give you a good foundation in how to help the Hispanic community. Now, number 1, of course, like get to know your community. And this is something that we hear all the time when people say, hey, how can we work with the Hispanic community? And I can tell you from 20 years ago when I started working with this community until now, the number 1 issue that we have in the Latino community is the lack of access to information. There are programs and services and opportunities, but our community is not aware of that. At the same time, our community has needs, has wants, has ideas, has projects, but the organizations are not aware of what the community needs. So this is what we're trying to do a lot of times, just bringing that information both ways. Also, of course, well, we heard this, no, stereotypes happen for a reason. Yes, because of ignorance. And I applaud you for being here today because this is one of the ideas that we had today is to dispel those stereotypes, to educate you in the Hispanic community so you can be able to work with them. Now, this is a rhetorical question. because this is something that we hear all the time. And you see, our little son is down there in the bottom. This is something that you need to remember. A lot of people believe that in order to help the Latino community, you just have to speak Spanish. And the answer will be yes or no. No, because guess what? And I have it down there. In Mexico, we have 68 different languages and about 350 dialects, which means like, no, not every Latino speaks Spanish. And we'll get more into this, but I can tell you also, Brazilians are Latinos and they speak Portuguese. We have a high concentration of people from Guatemala in our state and they don't speak Spanish. So they might speak Spanish, but guess what? Their native language is Mam. So this is one of the misconceptions we have to misspell. Is like, well, you don't have to speak Spanish because Spanish is just the language. If you understand the culture, you're going to be able to help them better. The growth in the Latino population in South Carolina from 2000 to 2020. And then we have some options in there, and we do this presentation with people in there. We ask them, what do you think, this and that? And a lot of people, I think, go from the 125% of 207, but actually the growth is 373%. Now, we know what this means is that the Latino community is growing rapidly and it's changing different places. And we're noticing this a lot more now in rural South Carolina when we see a lot more Latinos coming and living in there. And this has a lot of implications in how we're going to do our activities and how we can be successful in helping this community. Again, the growth, and you can see here how the Southeast is an area that has seen the highest growth in the Latino community. And what is it? People are going to ask, well, it's economic opportunities. People are moving to places where they can have a job. People are moving to places where they can give a better future for their families. And this is the area that's been providing them with those opportunities. Some maps, and this is, again, all of these you can find very easily, and we'll give you links so you can get all this information. But there is places where you can locate information like this, and this is giving you the bigger the circle, the bigger the Hispanic communities in the state. People that work with the Hispanic community, we then immediately figure out, okay, it's the upstate, Greenville and Spartanburg. In the Midlands, we have Columbia, Lexington, and then you have Charleston, which is another big community, and Beaufort, which is the one that I think that recent has been growing a lot more, the Middle Beach area. We also understand that the different Latino communities that we have are not the same. It's not the same the Latinos in North Charleston than the Latinos in Savannah. It's not the ones in Colombia where we have a lot, for example, Puerto Ricans, that they are here because of Fort Jackson. And again, if you go to the upstate, you're going to find that we have a lot of people from Colombia. And these are people that have been there for generations. No, it's not like a new community like it would be in the Beaufort area. And then kind of like the same map, a little bit different, but in this one you can see by the counties. Which are the counties that have the highest concentration of Hispanics? Jasper, Saluda County with 16%, Beaufort, Greenville, Berkeley, Newberry. Now, what is this information important is that it matters where your organization is, it matters where your service area is, because you can get information that goes specific to those areas. You can get information that say, hey, if I'm in Aiken County, 6% is Latino, but if I'm in Jasper County, 17% are Latinos. Something that I do a lot, and that's because of my background, my major is in financial administration, is that I will go to organizations or cities or counties and tell them, hey, your budget last year was $3 million. That means that in Jasper County, 17% of that money should have been gone to help Latino communities. Are you doing it or not doing it? But this is something that when you get information, I found this one too very interesting, and you can see, you can get information is out there. For this one, not only they are telling you for each one of our counties, the Latino community, they are breaking it down to let you know if it's from Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, from Spain, and other Latino areas. This will also, again, will teach you that when we talk about the Latino community, please understand that it's a very diverse community. When we talk about Latino communities in different areas on the state, it's not the same. You're going to have areas when you have more Central Americans. You have areas when you have a lot more people from South America. You're going to have areas when it's more people from Mexico. So learning to differentiate, and again, we'll send you links to all this information where you can say, okay, I'm in Edgefield County. What are the composition of the Latino community here? That's going to help you, because even though we all speak the same language, we're not the same. And those cultural differences are going to teach you how to reach out better to them. Some very important data, and these numbers that we have in here, 6.6, that's the percentage of Latino community in South Carolina. 375%, that's the estimate number of Latinos living in South Carolina. 34,971, that's the number of Latino business in the state. And finally, the $6.67 billion is the purchasing power of our community. And again, these numbers are important because they tell you that this is a community that is here to stay, that is part of what you're doing. And that's something that I tell everybody, like, you find Latinos, we are everywhere. And sometimes we have the misconception that we're supposed to look this or that. I mean, if you start asking somebody they are Latino or not, you're going to see that we come in all shapes and colors, in all sizes, with all different backgrounds, but then not everybody is also an immigrant. Some people were born in here. Now, this is another one of those that I wanted to show you that's very, very important. 92.7%. Latinos in South Carolina that are 18 years old or young, the young Latinos, 92.7% are American citizens. And I'm going to repeat that again. 90.27% of Latinos that are young, less than 18 years old, are American citizens. And this has major implications of when you think about the Hispanic community, because all these kids are going to the American school system. A lot of these kids are the kids that speak English perfect. And some of them don't speak Spanish now. Some of them are bilingual, but this is gonna inform your outreach activities, because if you understand that this community is changing rapidly and you understand you speak to them in English, they will understand you. And an example, and this is how having an organization that's been around for years will teach you or will show you that data even before the census found out that 92.7% were Latinos, is that we had this Latino poetry contest, and we did it for about 10, 12 years. And the first time we did it in 2005, 75% of the poems that we received were in Spanish. And also, when we did it in 2005, we did it because we got a grant from the South Carolina Arts Commission. So again, thank you. But we got about 127 poems that time, and 75% were in Spanish. That's 2005. Now, the last time we did this contest, which it was in 2019, only 15% of those poems were in Spanish. 85% were in English. And this is the evolution that we've seen in our community, how we went from a majority Spanish-speaking group of people that were participating with Palmetto Luna to get to the idea that now 85% was speaking English. Also, something that we hear all the time is that, well, yeah, you know, if you see some of the data, it's going to tell you that I'm a native Spanish speaker. But that doesn't mean that I don't speak English too. And we have a lot of bilingual people. And sometimes when you see the data and you say, okay, 40% of this community is native Spanish speakers, well, but it didn't tell you at the same time that 80% of those also speak English. And this is one of the ideas, or one of the concepts that I want trying to instill on you, is that no, you don't need to speak Spanish to work with the Latino community. What you need before anything else is the desire to do it. Some other information in here, and these are also some good percentages. Some of the cities that have a high concentration of Hispanics. Again, it depends where you're working and where you're trying to promote your culture, or we're trying to reach out to the Latino community. You can go as specific as to a city. When I saw this list, I immediately thought, like, wait, what happened with Saluda? Because I didn't see it in here, but then I realized that list is for cities with a population bigger than 5,000. If we go to smaller cities, that's when you see Saluda. 49% of Saluda is Latino. Southern Chops, and I admit that I had to Google where that was, but they have 44%. And then I saw something actually yesterday. There is a city called Luray, South Carolina, that has 69% Latinos. It's a city of about 125 people, and I guess like a few Latino families moving there, and they just made the composition of that city. But that's, again, this is going when we're talking about the data, just to keep in track that you can find all this data about Latino communities. If you are receiving federal funding, this is something that is very important. Understand that sometimes it's not that you want to reach out to the Latino community, that you need to do it or you're required by law to do it. So be very careful if you're getting funding from the federal government or some of your grant money is coming from federal government. Some of the cultural differences, um, and again, we're putting this in the screen because I know some people understand better when you put the information there. They like to read it, even though we are like talking about this. But some of that, like we see like groups of Latino friends, like we like to be together. Also for the Latino time that they call, that's why we're always late because Latinos focus a lot on the present and they like to be present in there. The communication style, and this is also important. You're going to be talking to Latinos. Latinos show a lot of deference. Will show a lot of respect. Our respect for the elders, and Americans tend to be more direct, more specific. We have a lot of supernatural concepts for Latinos. That's important to know, and also, of course, the displays of affection for Latinos is very common to come and hug somebody. We do this kind of trainings also in the other way when we tell Latinos, hey, respect my time, like don't get too close and talk to them. But it's just again trying to get people to work together better. Now, significant cultural traits. We talk about language. Remember, you don't have to speak Spanish because not all Latinos speak Spanish. Yeah, a vast majority of them do, but we also have another languages. Family is very, very important. That's why you will find that, and we do this in healthcare a lot when we tell them, hey, you not only have to convince the person to take his medicine, you're also going to have to convince the mom and the grandmom and the whole family, because that's the way it works. Like if grandmama says no, that's not going to happen. Or if you have an event and then it turns out that the artist has a family commitment, I mean, that might be important. They might not do it, or they might want to present that. Religion, about 92% of Mexicans are Catholic. And that's going to happen in a lot of our Latin American countries. The Catholic Church has a big influence on that. Respect. And this is something that we see in Latinos all the time, is that sometimes when they're talking to you, they won't look you in the eyes. They will turn their eyes down. And that's something that they are showing you respect. That, again, if you know that, like, well, they're showing me respect, but then we also, again, like I said before, we tell Latinos all the time, look at them in the eye. It's okay. You're not disrespecting them. You're communicating with them. Time orientation, like I mentioned before, we tend to have the issue that we focus on the present, and Americans focus most in the future. There is a weather channel, and that's an analogy that I use with everybody to say, hey, you see, there is a weather channel in here that tells you exactly how the weather is going to look tomorrow, every single hour of the day. And for us Latinos, sometimes, well, I don't know if it's going to rain, and then you just step out and then you see if it's cold or it's not cold. It's like, that's the way that sometimes we are, because that's the way we were brought up. Holidays, we have a lot of holidays, and this is important for you to know also, because if you're planning something with them, just ask. The last two are very important. Remember, we have two last names. And I cannot tell you how many issues I have, because my name is Ivan Segura Olmos. Segura is my first last name. Olmos is my second name. I don't have a middle name, but they always assume that Segura is my middle name, because you have to have something, right? Like, what do you mean no? And I used to have people telling me, what is your name? Ivan Segura Olmos. And be like, okay, is Olmos your last name? No, Segura Olmos is my last name. And it's not Ivan Segura, and I'm just trying to make it understand, I don't have a middle name. What is your middle name? I don't have a middle name. But then a lot of times when I get to a reservation and they cannot find Segura, I have to be, okay, can you look for Olmos? And then it turns out that, yeah, my reservation is my Olmos. Now, this is a funny situation, the way I'm saying it, but somebody might be applying for a grant and then he or she didn't apply correctly, or you were trying to figure them out or send them a letter or something. And if it's a situation when it's important for you, just make sure that you understand that there is two last names. So you're going to be reaching out to this community, just know that. And of course, we have kilos and kilometers, which is a lot better than the imperial system, but we're not going to get into that because that's a little too much. And finally, very important, and this is for the Latinos that are immigrants, that we come from another country, is that the way we write the date is the date, the day, the month, and then the year. And in here you write it month, day, year, which is different. It might not make any difference until you see somebody that's put 12/15/2007, and he's meaning the date, I mean, the month, the date, and then it will be the different, you're misspell, I mean, just putting the numbers in there differently, I guess. Now, we saw some of the information that is for the Hispanic community. And again, it's a lot of data, but don't worry. We'll send you links, and you can always reach to Palmetto Luna if you're working in a specific community and you want information about that group in that area. If you want statewide or something, we'll provide you with that information. Now, what we want to talk about now is what we call the Palmetto Luna model. And this is the way the Palmetto Luna has been doing activities in order for us to be successful during these past 15 years. Very important, and this goes for people that will be listening to this now or later, is that Palmetto Luna doesn't have any staff. We've never had any staff. Finally, this year, we're going to hire somebody. We got a grant from the Gaylord and Donnelly Foundation. Thank you again. That was going to allow us to do work, but everything that I'm going to show you right now was produced by volunteer work. Also, we have a little bit more money right now, but our average annual budget for the last 10 years has been about $10,000. What we have that is very, very strong is our Palmetto Luna Artist Network. And this is what has made this organization become so successful and powerful, is that we're about 250 people strong. Like, we have all these people across the state that are Latino artists that are helping us. And very important, and this is why I attribute the success of Palmetto Luna, is that we understand that the passion for our community, our passion for the community is bigger than our organizational ego. We don't have to do things because we want Palmetto Luna to look good. We do things because our community needs them. We do things because we love to foster Latino arts and culture. We do things because we like to provide opportunities for our artists. Now, an example, and again, I'm using the South Carolina Arts Commission. A couple of years ago, we got a grant from the South Carolina Arts Commission, which was only $1,500 to do a Day of the Dead celebration. And this is what we did. We ended up having 22 different cultural celebrations in different countries across the state. We have festivals, we commissioned some art, we had a poetry contest, we had cultural activities, arts and craft, we have a rock concert, and we even have a beer that was created and brewed specifically for the Day of the Dead. Now, remember, we only got $1,500. How we're going to be able to do this is because we activated our network. Because this came 2 years ago when we were 13 years already doing activities, and all we have to do is post something on Facebook and we say, hey, do you want to do a celebration in your community about the Day of the Dead? The only requirement that we had is that it has to be in a public space, and we can send you some funding to do it. And we ended up getting 22 different celebrations from people that reached back out through Facebook to say, hey, Ivan, I'm in Spartanburg. I know people in the library. I'm going to go in there and set up an altar. Great. Hey, Ivan, you know, I have a rock band. We're going to do a concert. We're going to do it. Good. Ivan, I live in Aiken. I'm going to work with the public library, and we're going to do, yes. And we did all of these activities again with $1,500, getting even to the point when somebody knew somebody in a brewery and say, hey, we have enough time to produce this something. We're going to have this beer. We're going to release it on that day. So we did all that amazing things, and it's because we were following the Palmetto Luna model, which is this one. And there is another one of the songs in there. This is another very important slide in this presentation, is that everything that we do with passion. We do this, as you just saw, nobody pays us to do this. We don't get money to do this, but we are committing to do this because this is what we want to do. I often tell people, if you want to be a volunteer, find that area where you want to volunteer and help, because there's so much need. So you can volunteer in something that makes you happy. Now, the Palmetto Luna model goes, first of all, knowledge. You need to know your community. And that's what we started with, by telling you a little bit about the Hispanic community, the Latino community, where it is, how do they think, how they're different, or reach out to somebody to learn more. Number two, creativity. You have to be creative in order to be able to do activities differently. Why? Because a lot of organizations have been trying and they cannot do it. That's when we come and say, hey, we have to do it in a different way. Number three, you have to collaborate. We will never be able to do what we do if we wanted to do it all on our own. And finally, be flexible. It might not happen exactly like you wanted. You might have to modify your project. You might have to let somebody else do it. That's when I go back to the organizational ego. When we say, hey, you do the event. You don't have to put Palmetto Luna on the flyers or the posters. We don't need a space in the system. All we need is for these Latino artists to be part of your festival. You do the event. What you need, yeah. We don't need to go and do a presentation, but you want to do it in the school. All we want is for this Latino art to be present in there. All we want is for the culture to be present. So that flexibility is what has allowed us to be very, very successful. This is something that we did a long time ago. And it was a tango flash mob in the middle of the street. The picture is not very good, but the one on the right there, you can see Elizabeth with her cello. So basically, Elizabeth got out there and started playing the cello, and out of the blue, we got these about 40 people that came out and just started dancing tango in the streets. And it was beautiful. And it was a great event, and it was in the beginning of Palmetto Luna, and we got a couple of pictures there, not very, very good. But then in the end, my wife told me, hey, Ivan, it was a great event, very, very beautiful, unique, but nobody knew that Palmetto Luna did that. Could you see our flyer? It doesn't say anything about Palmetto Luna. We didn't have flyers or banner on that. Like, it was great, but then what? I mean, you did this great, you took up a couple of bad pictures, and then what? You should have like made a video, put Palmetto Luna everywhere, so and then you can tell people, hey, you want to do something like this in the future, you can call me and then we'll do something like that. So we learn from that. And these are some of from those beginnings or humble beginnings, I can say, like we got to the point when now we have collaborated with some of these agencies. Like all of these, we've done an activity with them. And I didn't put every single one that we've done, but we've been slowly but surely creating these connections with different groups. When we say, hey, you want to work with us? Yes, let's do it together. You want to work with us? Yes, let's do it together. So we have now connections everywhere, but you have to start somewhere and somehow. That's why we wanted to share these, because like if you are going to start working with a community, it's not going to take 1 day or 2 days, but you can do it. You can get to this point. Some of the events that we had, poetry. We went on a Mardi Gras parade. We went with the Chicharrones, the baseball team. We done exhibits locally and in different places. We had Sheila E. one time in one of our workshops. We have a Latino garden at some point. We done stuff with the Museum of Art. We brought international artists like Salvador Escalona, who is there from Cuba. And very quickly, I tell you that the way we got Salvador Escalona is the same way that we got Sheila E. one time. Somebody called and said, hey, Salvador Escalona has a visa. He's from Cuba. He was going to do a show in Virginia, I think, and they canceled that show. Would you like him to come to South Carolina? It's like, yes, let's bring him. Sheila E. was going to be in town, and they say, hey, she's coming to town. She's going to do an event somewhere. She would love to go to a school and do a presentation for minority communities. Yes, let's make it happen. And then we made it happen. Now, one of our major events, of course, is the Day of the Dead celebration that we have here in Colombia. Every year, some pictures from, I think this is last year or this year. I'm not sure. It's last year because this year it rained. But now, talking about projects, and we're going to share 3 projects with you today, just to let you know how the Palmetto Luna model works again. This is a project that I did. This is a personal project. And I included right there, you see in the corner, it has the little sketchy thingy that I tried to do, very bad. And it says in there, photographer, one photographer, $50. And then I have poster printing, 6 for 50. That was the genesis of this whole idea. Now, I'm not a photographer. I don't have all these kids to make the pictures, but I know people in the community. I know photographers. I know graphic designers. I know people that want to do this. And the funding that we had was limited, but then we just call people and say, hey, can we get together kids to do this vision that I have about the mighty Latinos? And you see them in there. That was the end result. They are walking up and down the street on Main Street as part of the Indie Grids in 2017 that was called Visiones, and it was for the Latino community. And these were the posters that we created. And this was in that moment we're trying to say the Latino community is part of this community. And we're trying to show these Latino kids with the aspirations that they have. They'll say, this is going to be the kid that's going to cure cancer. And that's the one that's going to create a source of energy. If you notice, I decided to put them in the traditional attires, but we also included the American flag in there to make sure that people understand these kids were all born in the States and they are Latinos, but they are American citizens. They are Americans. And then we have another couple in there. So that's one of the projects that I wanted to show as a personal project, meaning like, even if you don't have an organization, you can do something with the Latino community. Then we have this other one that was a beautiful project, and that was the Echoes project. This is when the oral story history program from the Citadel has all these different stories of Latina immigrants that came from Latin American countries into the States. They sat down and talked to them, and then they recorded the stories. And they wanted to have artists listen to those stories and then create a piece of art inspired by that story. Now, that was a beautiful idea and project, and they actually got a grant to do it. What they didn't have was the connection with the artists. And that's when they came to Palmetto Luna and said, hey, Ivan, we have this money, we have this idea, can you help us and connect us with Latino artists? And we said, like, yes, like I told you, our network is 250 strong. So we send out ad to our artists, a notification, say, you know, we're working on this project, who wants to come listen to a story of a Latina immigrant and create a piece of art based on that. Not only that, you're gonna get $700 to do it because they had some funding to pay for that. And I remember because I saw this little flyer that we have in there when it says, help us tell the stories of our Latino community. We did have a conversation there because the first flyer that I created is saying there, get $700 to create art. Because I know my artists, I know my community, and I knew that's what they want to be like, hey, yes, everybody wants to help their community, but you offer me some money, then I'm going to be more interested in doing. And we have a fight because they didn't want artists to do it just because of the money. But I knew that artists were going to do it, and the money is something that they always struggle with. So let's show the money, how much we're going to pay them. So we ended up having two of them. But this project ended up producing, I think it's 22 different pieces of art. You still can go to Echoes Carolinas right now, and we'll send you the link when you can see all the art that was produced. You can hear the stories. And this is a project that we did with them, which of course is a different level. We're talking about not something that I wanted to do. We're talking about like a division or a department within institution of higher education that had all this information that they wanted to then create art produced by Latino artists. And of course, then since then, we've shown this piece of art in about like 7 or 8 places across the state. This is when we had it on the Columbia Museum of Art, and you can see some of the pieces in there. And also, of course, similar but not the same, we work with different libraries and cultural centers to do exhibitions. I decided to highlight this one right there because we've been doing this with the Greenville County Library System for the last 8 years, I believe. Like every year during Hispanic Heritage Month, we have one of our artists showing art in that place. And it's, again, to give them some opportunities to show their art. This is something that we did with in Greenville, one of them, and another one is the Greenville Center for Creative Arts, showing some of our Latino art. As you can tell, for us, it's very important to show the artists. I think when you are creating welcoming spaces, that's important, because I know a lot of artists that we work with is because they went to one of these exhibitions and they say, hey, look at these names. They sound like me: Garcia, Farfan, Rodriguez, Gomez, Perez, and you see their pictures. That's why for us it's important, especially for our new generation, to see that there are Latino artists in the state, and that everybody acts very surprised when they ask me, do you know an artist? I tell them, I know, I think it's 272 that are included in our Latino arts directory right now. And some of the most recent work that we had, we work with the Coger Center, and they call me one day and say, hey, Ivan, we understand that people that are coming to the Coger Center are not representative of our community. We would like to do something to create a welcoming space. So we connected them with the David Rodriguez Latin band, and they have a concert outside of the place, and we continue working with them. We have the Palmetto Luna Arts collection. Some of the pieces that you see here in my office are part of that collection. That collection right now has 162 pieces. So if you work in a gallery or a library or a school or a cultural center or something and you want to show this collection, we always show it for free. We can send you the link. You're going to see 162 pieces. You can choose, make a selection of that, or we can make the selection for you, and then we'll bring them to you. We put in somebody's truck and drive it in there. Again, we're very, very, very flexible. That's why when we did this one with USC, what they told us is like, hey, we can only show pieces that you can put inside a case or like a glass case or something, which means smaller pieces. So we did it for them. And of course, we always been very proud of the work we do with our LGBTQ community. That was Drag King extravaganza that we had on the Capital City Club here in Colombia. And again, that whole idea is the brainchild of Don Javi, his picture is right there. And one day he called me and said, hey, Ivan, I know the people to do the show. I have the connections on the Capital City Club. What we don't have is the money to pay for the room. So we end up like working with them to be able to produce some of the money that they needed for this. In the end, because we went and talked to them, we convinced the Capital City Club to do this event for free because it's good for them too. And that's a way for them to support the Latino community. And then finally, in this area of what we've done, I mean, we're very, very proud of our activism. We done it with youth. We also done a presentation. This was in Fort Mill, South Carolina, where we brought several Latino artists to talk about how to use art to affect or positively affect social change. And then this was something that's related to the literary arts, which for me as a poet, that's something that I'm always very, very interested. Like, please do not forget that writing is also a form of art, that not all the art that you can think of is visual art, like this one we have here. We have performers and we have traditional folk arts, we have poets, and we have different people doing art. Now, this is when we come to the intentional arts programming. This is when it comes to you. If you want to create an arts offering that's going to be interesting for our community, this is the first thing I can tell you, and this happens all the time. And we hear as the Latino community, new research shows minority communities are disproportionately affected by lack of access to cultural activities, disproportionately affected by not enough artistic opportunities, disproportionately affected by the COVID-19, disproportionately affected by income levels, everything. And you know why that happens? Is because we're always an afterthought. People go ahead and design their programs, and they go ahead and decide their mission and vision and activities and everything, and they're like, hey, what about the Latino community? What about the Native American communities? What about the African American communities? And then you find them like, oh, let's put this in Spanish, while thinking that that's all we need to do. Like, it's always an afterthought. It's always when they start seeing numbers and then they wonder, well, I wonder why Latinos are not coming to my events. It's because you are not doing it the right way. It's because you didn't consider them from the beginning. So one of the advice that we have right here is to recommend that you include the Latino community in your designing process. Number one thing that we do, and again, this comes from the Palmetto Luna project, is find your passion. If you want to work with the Latino community, you need to find the reason why you're going to do it. It could be because it's a social or altruistic reason. You can do it because it's a financial economy. You want to sell something to them. You might do it because it's a regulatory or compliance, meaning like you have to do it because you're required to do it. It can be part of your mission or vision, or it can just be the human aspect to say, hey, I really do want my art and my arts programming and my activities to reach everybody in my community. Now, once you find your passion, that's when you get to the part when we're gonna say, like, how do you have intentional arts programming? Number one is that make sure, and this is going back to the demographics that we show you, make sure that your participants or your attendees to your event reflect your community. Because if you do an event and the people that you see sitting there enjoying your performance or as part of your workshop or applying to your grants or in your activity that you're doing, and that doesn't reflect the community that you are, then you are not doing something right. Then you need to learn more before when you're designing, or then you need to link to organizations and groups. And that's what we're going to get in the last part of this. Like, how do you then make that step? But first of all, you need to understand there is an issue. Why? Because I've done this to foundations and organizations, and I've done it to the Arts Commission when I said, hey, last year you gave $2 million in grants, and only 0.01% of that money went to the Latino community. And that's not fair. And we need to do something about it. And this is why we're here, because if you need Latino community organizations, we have some. If you're looking for Latino artists, we have them for you too. And just making sure that it's not, we're only just telling them there is an issue, here is a solution. Provide welcoming spaces. Very important. It doesn't have to be anything very big, but our Latino arts collection, whenever we show it, we know that people in that community are going to walk into the Bluffton Public Library, and they're going to be very, very happy to see a painting that was produced by Orlando Corona, who's a Latino artist, that then we put the bio of him in there, and they're going to say, okay, this looks familiar. Yes, that's what creating welcoming spaces means, is when people feel like, yes, I'm feeling represented in this place. And if businesses can do it, and if some organizations can do it, that means that you can do it too. It's the same with if you are creating art and you want to reach to that community, say, like, oh, where can I show it? How can I invite somebody to come and work with me? Let me create a collaboration with somebody. Let me make sure that we're all working together. But providing that welcoming space also means that if you are a foundation or you are do arts programming or something, well, then let me show some art in here. Let me have a Latino night once a year. Let me have an event that's featuring the Latino community. We love when people do something for Hispanic Heritage Month. We wish that they will do it throughout the year. So we show that we are not the flavor of the month, that we're here because we want to do it. Do cultural appropriate activities. Again, this goes when you start working with this community, you know them more about it. Then you say, hey, I know that the day of the day is coming. It's very easy for us to put a little altar in there, showcasing that we know this is what's happening. We just had Los Tres Reyes Magos, the three wise men. It was on January the 6th. You can do something like that. It could be something as simple as a posting on your website or your social media when you can say, hey, we have these activities. We are recognizing that you're here. We're just creating a welcoming space. And remember, collaborations are bigger than performances. If you get the opportunity to bring a Latino to do a performance for you, please create a link with them, create a collaboration, talk about what we're gonna do in the future. How can we do this again? How can we do it better? How can we create that collaboration and not just, you came, it was great, and then you never see them again. And then what does this mean to you? Okay, some of the activities that you can do, I mean, please hire a bilingual, bicultural person. If you cannot do it, get a volunteer that's bilingual, bicultural. Change your services. Also, do outreach programs, and that's the next step we're gonna have here in 1 second. How do you reach out to this community? But very important, and that's the part that we have the little sun in there, is like, make institutional changes. This is why it's important to involve senior staff on this decision, because I feel if you are working in an organization and you want to make something happen, but it's only you, and you feel like, well, the more that you can get buy-in from your higher staff, the better, because then it's going to be the whole organization trying to help this community and not only you trying to do it because you want to do it. But making sure that if we're going to do a celebration for Hispanic Heritage Month, what about if we think about doing it every single year? What about if this is the first year? What about if next year we do it again? And then in 3 years, we do 2 activities and not only one. We can do Cinco de Mayo and Hispanic Heritage Month. Now, the part that probably a lot of people want to hear about, and I forgot to ask if are there any questions? Because I know from the beginning I said I was going to try to address them if somebody had asked a question, but I don't know if
there are none in the chat at the moment.
Now, reach out and connect, and this is also important. Now, We've been trying to get you to a point when you say, well, I need to learn more about the community in my area. Or if I'm an artist, how can I reach out to another artist? Where are them? What kind of artists they are? Number two, what would be a good model to reach out to them? Like we say, know about your community, be creative, be flexible, and do collaborations. Like, how can I do all of this? How can I actually get to work with some of them? And that's when, for effective outreach. Now, educate yourself. The first thing that you need to do is like know what you're offering and also your community. Know, like I said, if you have to do it because it's a requirement for you, not if you want to do it, maybe you have to do it. Maybe you're not in compliance. Maybe you want to do it, like I said, because you want to sell products to this community. Maybe you want to do it because you want to help. Maybe you are in the healthcare field. Know your product and then know your community. Know your access points. People would, and this is like the $1 million questions for a lot of people. Like, how do we do? Well, there is a lot of, especially in South Carolina, the way we go about it is what we call community brokers. These are the people that have access to people, meaning like it happens to me when I go to a new community and supposedly nobody's helping anybody, but somebody tell me, yeah, I don't know, but then Mrs. Maria helped me to do this. And then next time I go in there, somebody says, well, I couldn't get this information, but Miss Maria got me. And then I know that Miss Maria is a community broker in that. That's the one that people trust, is the one that has information. Then I need to link with her. Sometimes it's a church in that area. Sometimes it's a community organization. Sometimes it's somebody else that's going to be helping, but that's going to be your community brokers. Also, create relationships, not flyer drop zones. Very important for state agencies and organizations that sometimes they feel because I got my flyer and then I put it in Spanish and then I drop it somewhere, that's it, check mark. And if you really want to be able to effectively work with our community, you need to create a relationship. Be able to be flexible and adapt. You might find that, well, no, it's not going to be 8 to 5. It's not going to be able, if it's a creative project that you're trying to do, you cannot do exactly the same that you've been doing for 10 years. You might have to change your project and be like, hey, let's do it this way. Are you interested? Yes. Ask for help. And I put that in a different color because, yes, you don't have to do it alone. And we'll be sending you a list of contacts of people all across the state that you can reach out to them and be like, hey, I am required to provide services about disability, the disability network for the Hispanic community. I don't know how to do it. How do we do it? Hey, we just got some funding from the National Endowment for the Arts, and we're supposed to be reaching out to Latino communities. How do we do it? Here is the list of contacts. Hey, Ivan, in this creative process that we're trying to do, we want to do an international night in our church, in our institution, organization, school. Ask for help. Because you ask somebody, they'll know somebody to do it. This is how we created our network. It was slowly but surely by doing activities. And next time you show something or something is happening, somebody would approach and be like, hey, Ivan, I'm an artist too. Can I help? Yes, okay. Hey, I'm looking for gigs. Can you help? Yes, here is one. And a lot of the activities that we do right now is just somebody will call and be like, Hispanic Heritage Month happens every time. Hey, do you know Mariachi band? Yes. Hey, do you know a painter? Yes. Do you know a performer? Yes, and we just connect them with them. We also been teaching our artists, you never do it for free. You have to pay for that. You need to have a budget for that. And that's a magic question that I always say, hey, what is your budget for this? Yes, you know what? Palmetto Luna, now we have funding. We can pay. But you have funding too. I mean, let's share the funding, and then that way our artists will get more of the money that's well deserved for them. And celebrate your accomplishments. If you do something with the Hispanic community, please tell everybody. Please put it in all your social media. Please just send an email to everybody, because that's part of creating a welcoming space. Maybe not the first time, but somebody's going to notice when you do it a second time. Be like, wait, isn't this organization the ones that did something? Or they might notice the first time. We're going to, okay, that name is going to start in their heads to be like, okay, wait a minute. We've done a couple of activities in Aiken, and I see Eugene here on the Zoom meeting, and he's been helping us a lot. And it's always like, you start slowly but surely, and then more people will notice and more people will call you. Now, what we have I have down there, and this is going to be very important for you to remember. This is something my dad used to tell me. And he says, las cosas que hacen te dirán quiénes son, which translates that the things that they do will tell you who they are. Because you can talk a lot and you can say, I want to do this, and you can see some press releases here and there, but we always focus on what we see in organizations and groups and artists doing. When they are actually truthful in their desire to reach out to the community notices that. Because why? Because we don't see them only during Hispanic Heritage Month. We see them throughout the year. Because we don't only see them when they got in trouble and now they had to reach our community, we see them all the time. Because we don't see them only when they want us to vote for them, we see them all the time. And that's what part of creating this connection, a meaningful connection comes from. And then some of the Latino organizations in the state, this is also very different. And I think I deleted, I should have kept that. When I moved here about 20 years ago, it was 2 or 3 of them. Now, you have a plethora of Latino organizations in the state. Again, we do have a directory of these organizations that we can link you with them, but you can see how we have them all across the state that you can link to one of them and say, hey, I want to work with the Hispanic community. Can you help me? And I promise to you, every single one of them will be very happy, because that's one of the reasons that they exist, is to help connect the community at large with the Latino community. As part of the work that we do here on the Commission for Minority Affairs, we actually have a Latino media and community organization guide. You can go into our website, which is right there, and you can get it right now. That's public information. You can access this. We created this as part of the commission is because that's one of the first questions that people will get to me. Hey, do you know somebody in the Latino community? There you go. Here are the community brokers. Do you know some Latino media? Yes. Here is a list of all the Latino media in the States. Their contact information is going to tell you their area of influence. It's going to tell you how to contact them. Same with the community organizations. It's like these ones that we saw in here, all that information is going to be here, so you can reach out to them. If nothing else, if you have a project, the first thing you have to do is send them an email and be like, hey, we're working on this. We have funding for this. I have an artistic project. I'm looking for people to participate with me, and then we send it. Also with the media, that's something like, if you go to our website, I think it's only in English right now, because like I mentioned, we don't have staff and it will take time. And also, I mean, with technology, things get translated very quickly. And I used to translate Palmetto Luna's press releases until one day I couldn't do it right away. I sent it, and I promise to you, within an hour, I saw it published in Spanish on a Latino media site. And then I realized when I called them, like, Ivan, I got it. That's my market. That's my job. I translate it into Spanish, and then I publish it. Now, in working together from there, that moment, I just send it in English, and then I see it in Spanish, and then I take it in Spanish from them, and then I distribute it, and then I credit them, say, hey, translation by El Informador, translation by a Latino newspaper. And this is the way we're all helping each other, because sometimes, I mean, it's not enough money or not enough time. That's our network. And when I tell you, if you need contacts in the Latino community, all you need to do is reach out to Palmetto Luna, and we'll help you connect with somebody. Every single dot that you see in there is a contact that we have. Not because we have that information somehow. These are people and organizations that we have worked with them in the past. We've done something with these contacts at some point. It could be referring them to a gig that we have, participating with them in a creative project, organizing an event, organizing a festival, giving them money. I can tell you the last year, 92% of the money that we had was distributed to Latino artists in micro grants that we have. And I think we were able to do about 42 different micro grants. So the money that we have, we're using it to help our artists, but it's also helping us create this network, because some of those dots that you see in there might be a cultural center where we had a show that we help the artists produce the art for that show, and then 2 of them become our contacts for these activities. If you want to get more in-depth information, the Commission for Minority Affairs, which is what I work now, and that's something I can tell people, that I worked advocating for the community for 20 years, and I finally found a job when they pay me to do this. But our director really wants us to be a research organization, and this is part of a document that we produced for a request that somebody we got from the Charleston area. And they wanted to see where Latinos were in the Charleston area, and you can see that's Charleston County, I believe, and you see where more Latinos are, where less, and this can inform your decisions. This can also tell you where to go, deliver flyers. This can also tell you, should I be working more in this area or that? I know they have all these different ways to figure out this information, Census and Puma and all these different databases. I can tell you that if I look where the Latino stores are in this area, where you see more concentration, there'll be Latino stores in there. That's my outreach technique. I just Google Latino store, Charleston, boom, I show up in there, and I know the neighborhood is going to be there because that's what they put the store in there. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. But we can have this information for you. Also, this one is going to tell you, okay, if you want to know where the Mexicans are, or the Puerto Ricans, or the Guatemalans, people from Honduras, Colombians, or other Hispanics. So they can produce data for you at that level. When you say, I really want to know, I am in this area specific in Anderson, South Carolina. Can you tell me more information about the Hispanic community and their components in here? And we are getting close here to the end. That's when we say reach out and connect. This is what we will say, organization, get to the Latino community, use your Latino organization and your community brokers. And these are revolving doors, like, hey, keep getting information from there, we'll go back. And at some point, the goal will be like, you don't need the community brokers because you establish yourself in that area. I put Amy Rosario in there because this was an outreach worker that I had when I was working with the farm workers program at the South Carolina Department of Employment and Workforce. She had amazing results. Her numbers were through the roof. She was producing like for 6 or 7 different people. From the 5 that we have, she was producing 5 or 7 times more than any other person. Yes, she came from a farm worker family, and people thought just because she was a farm worker that she was very successful in going to the farms and talking to everybody. And when I met her, she told me, Ivan, it takes time. Yes, I've been doing this for 10 years now. Yes, I'm from a farm worker family. Yes, I know everything. But she told me the story, this new farm that I just met these people, I went in there and say, hi, my name is this. Okay, second time I stopped, how are you doing, blah, blah. The third time, they told me that their dog was sick and they were okay. Until the 4th time I show up in that farm, when I mentioned, hey, how is your dog? Because I made a note about it. She said, that's when we made the click. And I could tell for this new farmer that had no idea who I was, when I remember his dog and I asked about the dog, I remember him and the relationship changed from there. Now, I'm sharing this story to tell you, like, it's not going to happen the first time. It's not going to be easy. Because if Amy Rosario, I'm not going to say her age, but it's a seasoned employee that we have. If he took her 4 times reaching out to one farmer, even though that's what she does for a living, even though she was producing all these amazing results and reaching out to all these people, if he took her 4 times going to the farm in a couple of months to finally make a connection, maybe that's what you need to do. Just keep trying and making sure that you care. And that's what she did. She showed that she cared when she was reaching out to that community. I'll leave you guys with this. This is something that I tell all younger people in my community. When it comes to South Carolina and the Latino community, we're all pioneers. What we're doing is new. And you're not going to find the Latino civil rights organization. You might not find the Latino empowering Latinos organization. But what you might want to do might be something that nobody ever has done before. You're going to be a pioneer. So I'm inviting you to do that. And you might be the first African-American organization that was able to work with Latinos in Jasper County. You might be part of the first South Carolina Arts Commission program that actually went ahead and designed a project specifically for the Latino community. Not for minorities, not for BIPOC people. We actually established a program for Latino artists in the state. You might be a pioneer, so that's what I say. Find your passion and be a pioneer. And here is my contact information. And I have 1 minute to tell you, I love this picture. This tells a lot of me because, like I say, this is not my job. And we had a show for this Latina Chingonas project. When I left from work and I left late, I wish I was there earlier. And one of my friends found me when the show was about to start, or actually it was 2 3 minutes after it was supposed to start. I was still like there trying to fix everything, and I'm all sweaty like a pig and everything. But it shows me on my element, because if you want to do it, that's what I say. Find your passion. This is what I love to do. And I guess I don't know if there are any questions. I know we are right about time, so I'm gonna give it back to the commission to close this activity.
We do have one question. It's from Miss Thomas, and she's an arts administration student from Winthrop. I am too. I'm an alumni, so we should connect after this. Her question is, do you think students should learn effective outreach through a cultural lens?
Yeah. I mean, and I say this also because now I'm the director of multicultural affairs on the Commission for Minority Affairs, which means even for me, I'm learning how to reach out to the Native American community, the African American community, the Asian and Pacific Islanders community. So yeah, any and all tools that we can provide to our younger individuals is great, especially in the matters of diversity and inclusion. As easy as to like, hey, just go on and work with this community. If you already know everything about your community, then why don't you work with this different community? That's going to teach you a lot. That's something that I tell my Latino students is like the fact that you are aware that there is a world out there, that there are people that speak different languages, that not all Latinos are Mexican, that some people are from different countries, that some people, that's an amazing piece of knowledge that you have that you fail to realize that other people don't have. That other people don't realize that, well, yeah, we have Mexico and then Guatemala and then we have this and then you end up with Brazil down there. And that's a knowledge that we take for granted sometimes, that we're like, well, no, some people don't know that. So for the question, like, yes, the more that we can teach them how to be effective, at some point that might be very useful when they get to the workplace and you can say, I can work with people from different backgrounds.
Well, thank you, everyone. If there are no further questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up for the evening. Thank you so much for spending the time, Yvonne. Thank you so much for all your expertise in connecting us and providing the information. If you have the chance, please write down his email, but I will also be sending an email that has the PowerPoint presentation with both of our contacts if you have any further questions. So thank you. Please sign up for the next session if you're interested, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye.